Welcome back to Happily Ever After Storytime. Today we'll be reading The Ugly Duckling, written by Mara Alperin and illustrated by Sue Eastland. It was a sunny spring morning in the farmyard. Mother Duck sat proudly on a nest. "Come quickly," she called to the other animals. "My eggs are beginning to hatch." Crack, 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 crack! Out tumbled 4 perfect little ducklings. They were soft and fluffy and yellow. Lovely. Aren't they just the sweetest ducklings ever? Oink the pig. Cheep, cheep, chirped the baby ducklings, and Mother Duck gave them a big cuddle. But there was one egg left. It was bigger than the others and strangely speckled. Then it began to crack open. Out popped 2 funny feet, 2 wobbly wings, and 1 bumpy beak. Mother Duck gasped. He didn't look at all like her other baby ducklings. "What a strange creature! Whee! Such a funny colour! Moo! He's a very ugly duckling," snorted the pig. "Hush!" scolded Mother Duck. "He's my baby and I love him. Now come along, children. It's time for your first swimming lesson." Mother Duck marched towards the pond, and 4 little ducklings skipped along behind. "Wait for me!" called the ugly duckling, but he tripped over his funny feet and thump! Bump, bump, bump! He tumbled into the other little ducklings. "How clumsy! Moo!" "Never mind," said Mother Duck. "Now into the water like good little ducklings." "Let's sing our duckling song," Mother Duck called. "Quackity, quack, 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 quack," chanted the 4 little ducklings. "Honkety honk," the ugly duckling sang happily. "What's that?" hooted the horse. "You don't sing like a duckling." Now, now," said Mother Duck. "He'll learn in time." But the ugly duckling didn't learn, and all summer long the other animals teased him when he got stuck in things, tripped over things, and made an enormous mess. How embarrassing! No matter how hard he tried, the ugly duckling just didn't fit in. "Why don't you go away?" squawked the other little ducklings. "You're noisy and messy and you're ruining our fun." Just then they heard Mother Duck calling for her children. "Not you!" shouted the ducklings, and off they pranced, leaving the ugly duckling behind. "Oh, why does no one want to play with me?" sighed the ugly duckling. "No time to play," said a mole, popping his head up. "I'm digging a new tunnel for the winter." "Can I help?" asked the ugly duckling, and he poked his bumpy beak under the ground. "Where are you, my little one?" quacked Mother Duck. "We can't wait any longer. It's time to fly south for the winter." "I'm coming!" cried the ugly duckling. "Wait for me!" But the ugly duckling was stuck, and Mother Duck couldn't hear him. The ugly duckling wiggled and wiggled, and he pushed and pulled until, pop! At last he was free. But it was too late. They had left without him. "Oh no!" sniffed the ugly duckling. "I'll never catch them up now. I'm all alone." The days and nights grew colder, and the ugly duckling sheltered in the hollow of an old oak tree. And as the snowflakes fell, he curled up his long wings and dreamed of sunny days and games in the meadows. At last, The sun peeked out and the frozen pond began to fall. Then one day, a beautiful swan glided across the sparkling water. The ugly duckling peeked out from behind the trees. "I wish I could go and swim with her," he said, "but I'm too ugly to be her friend." And he gave a little sob. "Who's there?" called the swan. "Come out and play." "I can't," whispered the ugly duckling. "I'm too funny looking and everybody laughs at me." "I won't laugh," promised the swan. "I don't mind how you look." So the ugly duckling took a deep breath and stepped outside. "But you're beautiful!" exclaimed the swan. "Look!" And he looked down at his reflection and saw that she was right. The ugly duckling had grown into a swan, a beautiful, elegant swan with dazzling white feathers and a long, graceful neck. So they played together all day. He was very happy indeed. At last he was as beautiful on the outside as he was on the inside, and best of all, he had a friend. The end. Thank you for listening. Please like and subscribe. Welcome back to Happily Ever After Story Time. Today we are reading The Three Little Pigs. Written by Mara Alperin and illustrated by Ag Jackowska. There were once 3 little pigs named Horace, Boris and Percy, who lived together in a teeny tiny cottage in the forest. One day Mummy Pig said, "You're all too big to live here, so you must go and build houses of your own. But be aware of the big bad wolf. Take care your houses are safe and strong." "Who's afraid of the big bad wolf?" chuckled Horace. "Not me," giggled Boris. And so the 3 little pigs set off. Before long they reached a large field. "I'll build my house right here, out of straw," Horace cheered. "Straw? Are you sure?" asked Percy. "Oh yes," Horace said. "Then it's playtime for me." And with a pat, pat, pat and a hip, hip, hey, Horace built a house of straw. Soon after, Boris and Percy reached the edge of the woods. "I'll build my house right here out of sticks," Boris squealed excitedly. "Then I'll go and play with Horace." "Sticks? Is that wise?" asked Percy. "It's perfect," Boris said. And with a stack, stack, stack and a tra-la-la, Boris built a house of sticks. All afternoon, Horace and Boris laughed and danced. They had quite forgotten their mother's warning. "Yippee!" But Percy plodded on. "I want my house to be safe and strong," he thought. Then he came to a brickyard. "This is just what I need," he said. So day after day, Percy worked with a rumbly bump and a tip, tip, tap and a heave, heave, ho, until at last his brick house stood tall and proud. The summer passed. Then one day Horace was taking a lovely bubbly bath in his little straw house when he heard something growling. He peeped out the window and saw 2 big beady eyes. "By my snout," cried Horace, "it's the big bad wolf!" Little pig, let me in," bellowed the wolf. "Not by the hairs on my chinny chin chin," yelled Horace. "Then I'll huff and I'll puff and I'll blow your house down," cried the wolf. And he huffed and he puffed and whoosh! Horace's house blew down, down, down. Horace yelped and scurried all the way to Boris's house of sticks. "Look out!" he cried, diving behind the sofa. There in the window were big, beady eyes and sharp, pointy claws. It's the big, bad wolf!" Boris chattered. Little pigs, let me in," roared the wolf. Not by the hairs on our chinny chins, trembled Boris. "Then I'll huff and I'll puff and I'll blow your house down." And so the wolf huffed and puffed, and crash! Boris's house clattered down, down, down. Horace and Boris squealed and galloped all the way to Percy's house of bricks. "Look out!" they shouted, and Percy saw. Big beady eyes, sharp pointy claws, and truly terrible teeth. "It's the big bad wolf!" he cried. Little pigs, let me in," howled the wolf. "Not by the hairs on our chinny chins," shouted Percy. "Then I'll huff and I'll puff and I'll blow your house down." And so the wolf huffed and he puffed and he huffed and he puffed. But Percy's brick house stayed up, up, up. The big bad wolf couldn't believe his whiskers. "I'm the big bad wolf," he howled. "No tasty little pigs ever get away from me." "Oh, help!" shivered Horace. "He's on the roof. What shall we do?" asked Boris. "Quick, I have an idea," whispered Percy. "Yum, yum, yum, here I come," laughed the wolf, and he slid down the chimney right into a giant pot of boiling water. "Ow, ow, ow!" screamed the wolf, burning his bottom. Then he leaped up from the pot and ran away as fast as he could. After that, the 3 little pigs never saw the wolf again, and with help from Percy, they built one big strong house where they could all live together. The end. Please like and subscribe. Thank you for listening. Welcome back to Happily Ever After Storytime. Today we'll be reading Jack and the Beanstalk, written by Mara Alperin and illustrated by Mark Chambers. Deep in the countryside lived a widow and her son Jack. Their cottage was crumbling and their clothes were patched. They were very, very poor. One day Jack's mother said, "We must sell our cow. Take her to the market, Jack, and bring home some gold pieces." And so he set off to town. But before Jack had got very far, he met a strange little man. "That's a fine cow," the man said. "I'll swap you 5 magic beans for her." "Magic beans?" said Jack. "Are they really magic?" "Magic they are. I'll chop off my beard and knit it into a jumper," croaked the little man. "Magic beans!" Jack couldn't wait to tell his mother. He clutched them tightly and ran all the way home. Jack's mother was furious. "We need money, not useless old beans," she cried, and she threw them out of the window in disgust. But late that night a tiny bean sprout poked out from the ground, and then it grew and grew and grew. The next morning the beanstalk stretched high into the sky. "The beans were magic," Jack cried. "But what's at the top?" Jack climbed up, up, up the beanstalk. At last he reached the very top. There, shimmering in the sunlight, was a magnificent castle. Just then Jack's stomach rumbled. I must find some breakfast, he thought, and he tapped on the castle door. The door creaked open, and a huge giantess smiled down. "Hello," Jack shouted up. "Please, do you have any food?" "You poor thing," boomed the giantess. "Come right in, but quickly, before the giant gets up." What a marvellous feast! There was an enormous loaf of bread and a gigantic jar of jam. Jack tucked in at once. But suddenly the room began to shake. Boom, boom, boom. "Goodness me," cried the giantess, "he's coming!" And she shoved Jack under a teacup to hide. Into the room stomped a big, scary, hungry giant. "Fee, fi, fo, fum! I smell the blood of an Englishman," he shouted. "Be he alive or be he dead, I'll grind his bones to make my bread." "Don't be silly. There's nobody here but us," the giantess scolded. "Now go and wash before breakfast." Jack trembled and shook. "I must leave now," he thought. He was halfway down the hall when he heard a squawk. It was a hen with bright golden feathers. "Help!" she clucked. "Set me free and I'll lay you golden eggs every morning." Jack scooped up the hen, but then he heard huge footsteps thundering after him. "Fee, fi, fo, fum!" roared the giant. "I smell the blood of an Englishman, and there he is." Jack raced out of the door. He jumped and slid down the beanstalk. Down, 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 all the way back to his cottage. "Mother, quick, bring the axe," he shouted. Jack's mother swung the axe at the beanstalk. Twack! It shuddered and shook, and then the giant came tumbling down. Fee, fi, fo, crash! And that was the end of the giant. Jack hugged his mother tight. "Look what I found," he said, and he showed her the golden hen. "Oh, Jack," said his mother, "I'm so glad you're safe, and you were right about those magic beans." So Jack, his mother, and the golden hen all lived happily ever after, and with lots of golden eggs, they were never poor again. The end. Thank you for listening. Please like and subscribe. Welcome back to Happily Ever After Storytime. Today we are reading Chicken Licken by Mara Alperin and illustrated by Nick East. On a sunny farm there lived a fuzzy yellow chick called Chicken Licken. He was happy and hoppy, but he wasn't the brightest chick in the coop. "Where's my hat? I can't find it anywhere." One warm autumn day, Chicken Licken was hop, skip, skipping through the woods, when suddenly an acorn dropped from a tree and bounced off his head. Clink, clack, clonk. "Oh, my feathers! Was that a piece of the sky?" he squeaked. "Help! Oh, help!" Trembling, Chicken Licken scurried back to the hen house, squawking, "The sky is falling! The sky is falling!" "What's all this noise?" clucked Henny Penny. "The sky is falling!" panted Chicken Licken. "It went click, clack, clonk right on my head." Henny Penny dropped her spectacles. "Dear me," she gasped. "We must tell the king. He'll know what to do." So Chicken Licken and Henny Penny ran over to the duck pond, squawking and clucking. "The sky is falling! We must find the king!" "Did I hear the sky is falling?" quacked Ducky Lucky. "Yes, it fell on my head. Click, clack, clonk," said Chicken Licken. "What will we do?" cried Ducky Lucky. "The king will save us. Henny Penny clucked. "We must find him at once." So Chicken Licken, Henny Penny, and Ducky Lucky dashed off again, squawking and clucking and quacking. "The sky is falling! We must find the king!" "The sky is falling," gobbled Turkey Lurkey. "Quick, take cover!" And he leaped into the bushes to hide. "There's no time to lose," cried Chicken Licken. "We must hurry to town to find the king." So Chicken Licken, Henny Penny, Ducky Lucky, and Turkey Lurkey charged down the path, shouting, "The sky is falling! We must find the king!" But it wasn't the king they saw. It was Foxy Loxy. "What seems to be the matter, my fine feathered friends?" grinned Foxy Loxy. "The sky is falling," puffed Chicken Licken. "We must tell the king." Foxy Loxy licked his lips. "Poor little birds," he smirked. "Come with me, and I'll help you find the king." And so Foxy Loxy led the search for the king. The animals started in the bookshop. "The king's not in here," said Foxy Loxy, peeping into a recipe book. "Can you see him? Quack!" "And I don't see him here. How frightful," Foxy Loxy muttered. "He's not under here." "Now I remember where the king is," Foxy Loxy said with a sly smile. "I invited him to my den for dinner. Oh, do say you'll join our feast." "Don't worry, my tasty little friends. It's not much further to my den," chuckled Foxy Loxy, starting to drool. Foxy Loxy opened the door, and the birds waddled slowly inside. It was cold and dark in Foxy Loxy's den. "I don't see the king," muttered Henny Penny. "Perhaps he's running late." "I can't see anything at all," whispered Chicken Licken. Then Foxy Loxy lit the chandelier. "It's almost time for dinner," he purred. "What's for dinner?" asked Ducky Lucky. "You are!" cried Foxy Loxy, and he leaped at the birds. "Help!" They all cried, "Help!" And they squawked and screeched and fluttered and flapped until the whole den shook and the chandelier fell. Click, clack, clonk, onto Foxy Loxy's head. "Yikes!" shrieked Foxy Loxy. "The sky really is falling!" And he dashed away as fast as he could, straight into the king. "Greetings!" crowed the king. "What's this I hear about the sky falling? The whole town is in a flutter. But look, dear friends, the great blue sky is still up there." Chicken Licken gazed up and saw that the king was right. So the birds skipped under the bright sky all afternoon, and they never saw Foxy Loxy ever again. Thank you for listening. Please like and subscribe. Welcome back to Happily Ever After Storytime. Today we are reading Goldilocks and the Three Bears, written by Mara Alperin and illustrated by Kate Dubney. Once there were 3 little bears who lived together in a cozy little cottage. Each morning they made yummy, scrummy porridge for breakfast. It was the best meal of the day. But one morning, Baby Bear said, "Ouch! That porridge is hot, hot, hot." "Let's take a walk before breakfast and give it time to cool," said Mummy Bear, and so they did. No sooner had the bears left than someone peeked in through the window. Someone with bright golden hair. Her name was Goldilocks, and she was a very cheeky little girl. Goldilocks tapped, tapped, tapped on the door. "Hello," she called. "Hello." When no answer came, she pushed the door open and crept inside to explore. What a delicious smell! Goldilocks tiptoed into the kitchen and saw 3 bowls of yummy, scrummy porridge on the table. She slurped Daddy Bear's porridge, but it was too lumpy. She sipped Mummy Bear's porridge, but it was too sweet. Then she tasted Baby Bear's porridge. It was just right, so she ate it all up. Goldilocks was very full, so she looked around for somewhere to sit. There in the sitting room were 3 magnificent chairs. She tried Daddy Bear's chair, but it was too hard. She squished into Mummy Bear's chair, but it was too soft. Then she rocked in Baby Bear's chair. It was just right. "Whee!" cried Goldilocks. She rocked and rocked, faster and faster, until crash went the chair and broke into 100 pieces. "Oopsie!" giggled Goldilocks. She was having so much fun. "I wonder what's upstairs," she said. Up in the bedroom were 3 wonderful beds. Goldilocks jumped on Daddy Bear's bed, but it was too squeaky. She bounced on Mummy Bear's bed, but it was too squashy. Then she hopped onto Baby Bear's bed. It was just right. Snored Goldilocks. She had fallen fast asleep. But as Goldilocks slept on, the 3 bears came home. They were very, very hungry. And when they opened the door, "Someone's been eating my porridge," growled Daddy Bear. "Someone's been eating my porridge," rumbled Mummy Bear. "Someone's been eating my porridge," cried Baby Bear, "and now it's all gone." And before Mummy Bear could make some more porridge, they heard a loud roar from the sitting room. "Someone's been sitting in my chair," growled Daddy Bear. "Someone's been sitting in my chair," rumbled Mummy Bear, rushing over. "Someone's been sitting in my chair," cried Baby Bear, "and now it's broken. Wah!" But before Daddy Bear could fix the chair, they all heard a noise coming from above. One after the other, the 3 bears crept up the stairs. "Someone's been sleeping in my bed," growled Daddy Bear. "Someone's been sleeping in my bed," rumbled Mummy Bear. "Someone's been sleeping in my bed," cried Baby Bear. "And she's still here." Goldilocks opened her eyes. "Yikes!" she shrieked. 3 very hungry bears were staring down at her. Goldilocks leaped up and dashed down the stairs and bumped into the kitchen table. Smack! The bowls of porridge flew up, 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 and the gooey porridge fell splat onto her golden hair. "Ew!" yelped Goldilocks. The last the 3 bears saw of Goldilocks was her dashing down the path, leaving a very sticky trail of porridge behind her. "Someone's covered in yummy, scrummy porridge," growled Daddy Bear. "Someone's covered in licky, sticky honey," tutted Mummy Bear. "Can we have toast for breakfast instead?" said Baby Bear, and so they did. The end. Thank you for listening. Please like and subscribe. Welcome back to Happily Ever After Storytime. Today we are reading The Gingerbread Man, written by Mara Alperin and illustrated by Miriam Latimer. Mr. and Mrs. Baker lived all alone. Day after day they baked big gooey cakes, sweet crumbly pies, and piping hot pastries. But they had no one to share them with, and that made them very sad. Then one day Mrs. Baker made a little gingerbread man to cheer them both up. He had jolly jelly buttons and a big icing smile. Dusting the flour from her hands, she popped him into the oven. But to Mr. and Mrs. Baker's surprise, when the tray came out, the gingerbread man leaped up onto the table and began skipping through the sugar. "Tee-hee-hee, you can't catch me," he giggled. "Bless my cinnamon stars!" cried Mrs. Baker as they chased him over pots, under pans, and all around the kitchen. But the gingerbread man was too quick for them and he jumped right out of the window. Scurrying along the path, the gingerbread man ran into a very hungry cow. "You look tasty," mooed the cow. "And what fine jelly buttons you have." But the gingerbread man just danced and pranced, singing, "Run, run, run, as fast as you can. You can't catch me, I'm the gingerbread man." And off he ran as fast as his gingerbread legs could carry him. With a great moo, the cow thundered after the gingerbread man, past the milk churns, through the barn, and round the haystack until, crash! The haystack tumbled over right on top of the cow. "Oh, milkshakes!" cried the very dizzy cow. The gingerbread man scampered up the hill. At the top was a very hungry goat. "Good day," bleated the goat. "I love munching thistle, but you look even better to eat." Bah. But the gingerbread man just whirled and twirled, singing, "Run, run, run, as fast as you can. You can't catch me, I'm the gingerbread man." And off he whizzed, leaving a trail of gingerbread crumbs behind him. So the goat dashed after the gingerbread man through the thistles, over the gate, and in and out of the apple orchard until, smash! The goat butted right into a tree, and the apples came toppling down with a thud, thud, thud. "Oh, nettles!" cried the goat, rubbing his head. "Tee-hee-hee!" laughed the gingerbread man as he frockered through the meadow. There, dozing in a tree, was a very hungry cat. "Hello," meowed the cat. "You look like a perfect snack. Meow." But the gingerbread man just wiggled and giggled, singing, "Run, run, run, as fast as you can. You can't catch me, I'm the gingerbread man." And off he whooshed, racing down the lane. Licking her lips, the cat chased the gingerbread man around the bush, through the daisies, and towards the pond. The cat pounced up, 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 and came down, down, splash, right into the middle of the cold, wet pond. "Oh, Whiskers," grumbled the very soggy cat. As the gingerbread man ran down the hill, he began to laugh and sing, "Tee-hee-hee, I'm having fun. I run away from everyone. A curly-haired woman, a man in a hat, a cow and a goat, and a silly old cat." But when the gingerbread man reached the riverbank, he stopped and shivered. "Brr, too cold. How do I cross?" Just then a fox appeared. "Hello, little gingerbread man," he grinned. "Perhaps I can help you. Just climb on my tail, and I'll carry you across." "Brr, Too chilly, the ginger man squealed as the fox paddled into the river.
Then why don't you climb onto my back? Asked the fox.
Too wet, squeaked the gingerbread man as the water swirled at his feet.
Climb onto my head,
smirked the fox, and the gingerbread man scrambled up. But the water rose higher still, so the gingerbread man climbed to the top of the fox's nose. Tee-hee-hee, they'll never catch me, he cried, just as the fox tossed up the gingerbread man, up, 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 in the air, and opened his mouth wide. Snap! And that was the end of the gingerbread man. Oh dear, sighed Mrs. Baker. What a naughty gingerbread man he was.
I'm still hungry, mooed the cow.
Me too, bleated the goat. Meow, so am I, meowed the cat. Then Mr. Baker said,
Let's all go and bake something else together.
So they all trotted back to the bakery to mix and stir cakes and pastries and pies, but no more gingerbread man. It was a fantastic feast, and with their 3 new friends, Mr. and Mrs. Baker were never lonely again. The end. Thank you for listening. Please like and subscribe. Welcome back to Happily Ever After Storytime. Today we are reading The 3 Billy Goats Gruff, written by Mara Alperin and illustrated by Kate Pankhurst. High in the mountains lived 3 billy goats. They were called Baby Gruff, Middle Gruff, and Big Gruff. All winter long an icy wind blew, and the billy goats ate only dry thistle and scraggly brambles. When at last the snow melted, they set off for the valley below. Down the mountain they trotted, trip, trap, to the old stone bridge. There on the other side of the river was the freshest, greenest grass they had ever seen. Look at that yummy, scrummy grass! I'm so hungry I could eat the whole field. Can I go first? Can I, please? And so the billy goats lined up to cross the bridge. First Baby Gruff, then Middle Gruff, then Big Gruff. But under the bridge, hiding in the shadows, was a big, ugly troll. He had a terrible warty face. He had horrible pointing ears. He had awful stinky breath, and he liked to eat anyone who crossed his bridge. So when Baby Gruff skipped across the bridge with a trip, trap, trip, the troll sprung up from below, snarling and slobbering.
Who's that trip-trapping over my bridge?
It's me, Baby Gruff squealed, the littlest billy goat. I'm going to the meadow to nibble all the flowers.
Oh, no, you're not, roared the troll. This is my bridge, and I'm going to eat you up for breakfast with some freshly buttered toast.
Baby Gruff trembled. Please don't eat me, he squealed. I'm so little you wouldn't even taste me. Wait for my older brother, Middle Gruff. He's bigger and much tastier. The troll licked his lips.
Bigger? Tastier? He cried. Then I'll eat him instead. Now be gone with you.
And so Baby Gruff scurried off over the bridge. Trip, trap, trip. Silly old troll, he giggled. Soon after, Middle Gruff clattered across the old stone bridge. Trippity-trap, trippity-trap. The troll leaped up once more, growling.
Who's that trip-trapping over my bridge?
It's me, Middle Gruff bleated, the next billy goat. I'm going to the meadow to munch all the grass.
Oh, no, you're not, roared the troll. I'm going to gobble you up for breakfast with a nice glass of milk.
Don't be silly, cried Middle Gruff. I'm so bony I'll make your teeth fall out. Wait for my older brother, Big Gruff. He's fatter and much yummier. The troll started to drool.
Fatter, yummier, he shouted. Then I'll eat him instead. Now be gone with you.
And so the Middle Gruff trotted across the bridge. Trippity-trap, trippity-trap. Silly old troll, he tutted. Finally, Big Gruff thundered up to the bridge.
Trip, trap, tromp. Roar! Roared the troll. Who's that trip-trapping over my bridge?
He was very hungry by now. Big Gruff stomped his hooves. It's me, he grunted, the biggest billy goat. The troll's tummy was rumbling and grumbling. Up he jumped, bellowing,
Here I come to gobble you up.
No, said Big Gruff, pointing his big, strong horns right at the troll.
Here I come.
And he butted the troll right into the rushing river. Splash! Ah! howled the troll as the river swept him far away. And so Big Gruff thundered over the bridge to join his brothers in the meadow. Trip, trap, tromp. Silly old troll, he chuckled. All summer long, the 3 billy goats Gruff crunched and munched the delicious green grass until they could eat no more, and they never, ever saw that silly old troll again. The end. Please like, follow, and subscribe. Thank you for listening. Welcome back to Happily Ever After Storytime. Today we'll be reading Little Red Riding Hood, written by Mara Alperin and illustrated by Loretta Schurer. Once there was a little girl who loved to wear red. She had red shirts and red skirts, red shoes, and a fabulous bright red cloak. Her name was Little Red Riding Hood. Early one morning, Little Red's mother packed up a basket. I have a very special job for you, she told Little Red. Granny is feeling poorly. Will you take her this fresh fruit? Of course, cried Little Red, and she put on her favourite cloak and kissed her mother goodbye. It was a bright sunny day, and Little Red skipped through the woods. Good morning, she called to the rabbits and the deer. I'm bringing Granny a special surprise. But someone was peeping from behind a tree. A big, hungry wolf.
Good day,
growled the wolf.
What are you doing in the woods all alone?
I'm taking this special basket of fruit to Granny, Little Red replied.
Yuck,
thought the wolf. He didn't like fruit. He liked to eat tasty little girls. So the wolf thought up a plan, a horrible, clever plan.
Why not pick Granny some lovely flowers?
He said. Good idea, said Little Red. But as she started gathering the daisies, the wolf raced down the path towards Granny's house. The wolf knocked on Granny's door with a thud, thud, thud. Is that you, Little Red, my dear? Called Granny. Yes, squeaked the wolf. Let me in, it's breakfast time. Oh, goody, said Granny, opening the door. What are we having for breakfast?
You, cried the wolf.
Ah, yelled Granny. You're not Little Red. And she slammed the door right on his big furry nose. Ow, 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 howled the wolf. Quick as a flash, Granny ran out of the back door and into the woods to find help.
"Horrid old Granny,"
the wolf growled, rubbing his nose. But now he could put his terrible plan into action. So when Little Red knocked tap, tap, tap on Granny's door, it was a deep, scratchy voice that asked, "Come in, my dear." Little Red walked into Granny's bedroom and stopped in surprise. "Why, Granny," she said slowly, "what big ears you have." "The better to hear you with, my dear," croaked the wolf. "And Granny," Little Red said carefully, "what big hairy arms you have." "The better to hug you with, my dear," growled the wolf. "But Granny," Little Red whispered, "what big teeth you have."
"The better to eat you with, my dear,"
snarled the wolf, and he pounced at Little Red. Just at that moment, the door burst open. In rushed Granny with the woodcutter. "Stop right there!" yelled Granny. "Put her down now!" bellowed the woodcutter, "or we'll chop you up and turn you into a birdhouse." With a terrified howl, the wolf jumped out of the window and ran far, far away, never to return. Little Red hugged Granny tight. "I'm so glad you chased that wolf away," she said, and she gave Granny the basket of fruit. "What a day of excitement," laughed Granny. "Now let's all have breakfast." The end. Thank you for listening. Please like and subscribe so you can keep up to date with any new books that I put up. Thank you. Welcome back to Happily Ever After Story Time. Today we are reading Rumplestiltskin, written by Mara Alperin and illustrated by Loretta Shura. There was once a foolish miller, whose pride and joy was his beautiful daughter, Isabella. She was sweet and gentle and adored by all. The miller was so proud of Isabella that he boasted about her day after day to anyone who would listen. "Tulips start to bloom when my daughter sings," bragged the miller. "When Isabella catches raindrops, they turn into butterflies. My daughter can even spin straw into gold." Soon word reached the king, who rode to the village to hear the miller's amazing tales. "Gold from straw?" the king cried greedily. "How clever! I command you to spin for me tonight." "Wait! There's been a terrible mistake!" shouted Isabella, but it was too late and she was carried off to the castle. There, in the highest tower, was a small wooden spinning wheel and a mountain of straw. "Spin me my gold," ordered the king, "or I shall throw you into the royal dungeons." Poor Isabella tried everything she could think of. She pedalled the wheel and she twisted the straw. She pushed and she pulled, but nothing worked. And as the stars began to twinkle, Isabella started to cry. "If only there was someone who could help me," she wept. Suddenly, there was a dazzling flash of light, and poof! A strange little man appeared. He had a sharp, pointy face and a glittering gold cape. "I can spin straw into gold," the little man smirked, "and I will help you for a price." "But I'm just the miller's daughter," whispered Isabella. "I have nothing to give." "Here's my plan," he said. "Tonight I will spin your gold, but one day, when you have riches beyond your dreams, I shall return. You must promise me my pick of treasures then." "Yes, anything," Isabella agreed gratefully. So the little man sat down at the wheel, whirr, whirr, around he spun, making coins and crowns, and trinkets and trophies until the room glittered with gold. You saved me, sighed Isabella. How will I ever repay you? Just don't forget your promise, laughed the little man, and with that he vanished. In the morning the king returned. He was delighted. What glorious gold! He cheered. You truly are a wonderful girl. You must come and live in my castle. I'd like you to meet my son, Prince Herbert. Unlike his father, Prince Herbert was handsome and kind. He and Isabella fell in love at once. Soon wedding bells rang out across the land. The years passed and the happy couple were blessed with a beautiful baby boy, Prince Hugo. They were so happy, in fact, that Isabella forgot all about the funny little man. Until one stormy night, as the lightning flashed, poof! The little man appeared again. It's me, my pretty one, he crackled. I'm here for the treasure you promised. What treasure would you like? Isabella asked. Gold, silver, a diamond necklace? No, sneered the little man. I want something even more precious. I want him. And he pointed right at Hugo. No, cried Isabella in horror. You can't take my darling baby. Very well, the little man purred. Then how about a game? If you can guess my name before 3 nights have passed, you can keep your baby. And chuckling, the little man leaped into the air and vanished. Don't worry, my love, called Herbert, rushing over. That horrid man would never take dear sweet Hugo. On the first night, Isabella guessed all the names she'd ever heard. Nick, Ned, Norbert, Willie, Wally, Weatherby. No, 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 giggled the little man. That's not my name. The second night, Isabella and Herbert were up until dawn thinking up new names. Is it Bumble Knuckle? Grubble Grunt? Wiggle Boo? No, 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 cheered the little man. Not even close. Isabella was desperate. I can't think of any more names, she cried. Then we must find out this little man's secret, said Herbert. I have a plan. So the next morning, Herbert set out to search for the little man. He rode through the village, over the hills and deep into the forest, but the little man was nowhere to be found. Then as the sun was setting in the woods, he saw the flash of a golden cape. Herbert hid behind a tree and watched as the little man danced around a fire singing, The queen will never win this game, Rumplestiltskin is my name. That's it, Herbert whispered, and he rushed back to tell Isabella. That night the little man appeared one final time. This is your last chance, my pretty one. Let me think, said Isabella. She frowned and scratched her head. Could it be Rumplestiltskin? Doom and darkness, how did you guess? Shrieked Rumplestiltskin, and he howled and he growled and he stomped and he stamped so hard that he crashed right through the floor and fell down, 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 deep into the raw dungeons below. Rumplestiltskin was never seen in the kingdom ever again. Hugo grew up to be gentle and kind and adored by all, just like his mother. And so they all lived happily ever after. The end. Thank you for listening. Please like, follow and subscribe. Welcome back to Happily Ever After Storytime. Today we are reading The Elves and the Shoemaker, written by Mara Alperin and illustrated by Erica Jane Waters. In an old and shabby shoe shop, there lived a cobbler, Stan, and his wife Jan. Though they were poor, they were very happy, for they loved to make shoes. Shoes for walking, and shoes for jumping, shoes for skipping, and best of all, shoes for dancing. Every day, Stan and Jan worked hard making shoes for their little shop, and every evening they slipped on their favourite dancing shoes and waltzed the night away. The villagers loved to watch them dance, and before long, people young and old whirled and twirled through the door to join in. All summer long, the shoemakers danced, sharing their joy with everyone around them. But soon the bitter winter came, and as the weeks passed, fewer and fewer customers stopped to buy shoes. The shop grew quieter and quieter. "Whatever will we do?" worried Stan. "Soon we'll have no money left and no more firewood." That night, Stan and Jan huddled by the tiny fire, their fingers too cold to sew and their feet too frozen to dance. Let's go to bed," Jane chattered. "Perhaps we'll think of something in the morning." But in the morning they awoke to find the most magnificent pair of shoes. "Leaping laces! Who made these?" marvelled Stan. Before they could start to wonder, the shop door opened and in marched their first customer in weeks. "G'day!" cried the customer. "My name is Sir Flumby. I spied those splendid shoes in the window and I simply must have them." The shoes fitted perfectly, so Sir Flumby paid Stan a handful of gold pieces and skipped away merrily in his new shoes. Delighted, Stan went to the market to buy some supper and firewood, and that night the shoemaker and his wife danced with joy once more. The next morning they found to their amazement 3 new pairs of shoes, even more stunning than the last. Stan and Jan could not believe their eyes, but just then, "Greetings, shoemakers. I am Sir Flipsy Flopsy, and I have heard tales of your marvellous shoes." "Why, they are even more fabulous than I imagined," he bellowed. "I should buy them all, 1 pair for me and the others for my horse Toby." So Sir Flipsy Flopsy filled the shoemaker's pockets with gold coins and galloped off. From then on, there were shiny new shoes every morning. Soon the shop was warm and cozy and bustling with customers day after day. One day Jan said, "We still don't know who is helping us. I wish we could thank them." Then Stan had a wonderful idea. "Why don't we stay up and find out?" So that night, Jan and Stan hid behind the curtains. They waited and waited and waited until, as the clock struck midnight, 3 tiny elves slipped in through the keyhole and tiptoed across the room. The elves set to work with a stitch, stitch, stitch and a rap-a-tap-tap, and as they worked they sang, "We love jumping, leaping, prancing. We were sad when you stopped dancing. So in we creep while you are dreaming, making new shoes, bright and gleaming." All night the elves sewed until the sun began to rise, and then quietly they popped back through the keyhole. Stan and Jan were so surprised by what they'd seen. "What delightful little elves," Stan whispered. "We must repay their kindness." "Let's make them their own little dancing shoes," said Jan, "and some dancing clothes too." So the next morning, that's just what they did. Jan knitted tiny jumpers using tiny pins, then sewed on tiny apple pips for decoration. Stan crafted tiny shoes from dandelion leaves, then stitched them with daisy stem laces. And together they made little pointy hats, finished with the tiniest pom-poms. At midnight, Stan left the tiny parcel on the workbench just before the 3 little elves crept inside. "For us very special helpers, may you dance the night away. With love, Jan and Stan." When the elves saw their new clothes, they were overjoyed. They giggled and wiggled and danced all night in the moonlight. But as the stars faded, the 3 tiny elves tiptoed away and vanished into the night. That was the last the shoemakers ever saw of the elves, but their kindness was never forgotten, and Stan and Jan danced every night with their friends, just in case the elves ever returned. And who knows, maybe one day they will. The end. Thank you for listening. Please like, follow and subscribe.